Hey, what's up, everyone? I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Here's What I Think with your host, Charles Debancy, where we discuss everything from current events, economics, politics, and how it all shapes business and life. And yesterday, we had a very, very big day in the political world because Kamala Harris, who, by the way, has been accused over the last few weeks and months of being afraid to actually take interviews. When she came out as a Democratic nominee after Joe Biden stepped down, a lot of people were saying, at least people on the opposition were saying, the Democrats are hiding her from interviews. She's afraid to do interviews. And this has been one of the knocks on her. But over the past few weeks, she's been going on various platforms and interviewing with people. The first one she did get a bit of pushback because she went with Tim Walz, her VP candidate. And some people were like, can't you do an interview by yourself? But then recently, she had the big interview with 60 Minutes, which was a very, very difficult one. But nevertheless, she went there. Donald Trump declined to go there for a plethora of reasons that we're not going to get into right now because he was upset with the show for reasons that he already outlined. So yesterday, there was a big interview that was slated to be published by Fox News when Kamala Harris sat down with Bret Baier. Now, if you know anything about Bret Baier and his interviewing style, as a journalist, he asks hard questions. He rarely lets you finish your points. He in some cases, he looks like he's badgering his opponents, and he just is a tough interviewer. Midway through her interview, I actually had to go back and look at him interviewing a former president, Barack Obama, and it was the same thing. Right, he was hard hitting. He wouldn't give up an inch. Right, but obviously that's what makes him who he is, and he seems to be pretty good at it because he's been doing that job for years. So going into that interview, a lot of people were anticipating how Kamala would be able to perform and ultimately hold her own against Bret. And to be quite honest with you, the moment the interview commenced, it was about a 26-minute interview based on the video that Fox News released yesterday, and from the onset. It was hard hitting. He immediately came out and started hitting her on immigration. I think that she was caught off guard by just how much fervor he had in terms of his line of questionings. He was not letting her get off the hook with anything. He even brought up some victims that were impacted negatively, families, I believe, who lost their children's lives due to some immigrants that came into the United States and committed crimes, and he brought up those points, and you could see that it was a tussle at that point. But nevertheless, I felt like she was doing okay, right? I don't think that she performed exceptionally well. I think she did okay at that point. And then later on in the interview, they started to discuss her economic policies. But then at one point, it got to the point in the interview where they were discussing the rhetoric of former President Donald Trump and some of the things that he said about his opponents were he to take office. And this is where things just went off the rail. And then they just really started going back and forth. And you saw Kamala really kick it into another gear, and she just got fired up. And later on, he actually said she was looking for a viral moment. But for those of you who didn't hear this exchange, I want to play that for you now. And then want to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to this exchange here.
If he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States, why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked
no,
about that
no,
specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
So you heard the exchange here. What are my thoughts on this interview as a whole? I think she did all right. But if I'm giving you guys an honest assessment, I don't think that interviewing is her strong suit. I don't think that that's where she necessarily excels. I think she does okay, but frankly, this is clearly not her forte, right? This is not her forte, and she just got thrusted into the public forum, although she was the vice president. But now when you're running for the highest office in the land, the scrutiny mounts, and it certainly has mounted. And now people are going to be scrutinizing every single word that she said. If I had to give her a grade on that interview, I would probably give her a B-, a B minus, because there's always room to improve. And it was her first time really being in that type of environment when she was dealing with someone that was, that was really, really like on his game that day in Brett Baer. But there are other people out there that said that she did terribly during that interview. Other people said that she knocked it out of the ballpark. It really all comes down to your assessment. So what I want to know from the audience is, based on the people that actually saw that interview, how do you think Kamala performed during that interview? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comments section, and we'll catch you guys on the next show.